Guys, welcome back to the NMT podcast where we talk about life, sports, social issues, if any issues at all. Today's podcast is going to be about why do most people fail? It's a very simple question, but it's something that I think a lot of people have problems with defining or have problems with understanding why they're failing. So first is lack of concentration. That is the first thing. Lack of concentration is defined as not being able to think clearly, but in this situation, it's about not being able to think clearly and having a clear goal in mind that you can push to. So a lack of concentration can come from a lot of things. It can come from outside pressure. It could come from inside pressure, like inside your house. It could come from your own pressure, the pressure that you create on yourself. And it's giving you a lack of concentration to concentrate on what the main goal is and the main prize is, whatever it may be. Whatever you're driving towards, make sure you have a lot of concentration when you're driving towards that goal. Next thing is the ability to adapt to change. Change is a huge thing that I am uncomfortable with. It sucks, but I have to do it, especially in my sport. We're always bouncing around. We're always going to new places. So adapting to change is a huge thing, especially in sports. And adapting to change could be a place that you're at and you don't like it, but you need to figure out a way to like it because that's where you're going to be living at. That's the reality of it. I talked about this in my other podcast on episode 2 is the lack of a vision. You have to have a vision of where you're going. You have to be able to close your eyes and say to yourself, this is where I'm going. The tunnel that I talked about in episode 2. If you haven't checked out episode 2, go check out episode 2. The tunnel that you have created, everybody knows it as tunnel vision, is a comfortable thing. And if you have a clear vision of where you're going, nothing will stop it. You'll be able to go through any obstacle knowing that the goal is on the other side. Now, if you have a lack of vision, that would be you're having so many different goals or so many different thoughts in mind. And instead of having one tunnel, you have multiple tunnels. So you're kind of like, which way am I going to go? Left, right, middle, whatever it may be, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be a lack of vision. This is a statistic. I always like to bring up statistics because it's crazy to me. 92% of Americans in America fail to achieve the goals that they had originally set out for themselves. So why is that? Well, it could be a change of goal. It could be something so simple as you don't like that goal anymore and you want to shift to a new one. But 92% of people, when they look at what they want to do in life, be a businessman, be a doctor, be an entrepreneur, own some sort of business, whatever your goal is, 92% of the people fail. So that means only 8% of Americans achieve their goal. That is a crazy statistic. When I saw it, it was kind of like, wow, it kind of boggled my mind a little bit. For myself to be able to be like, I need to just keep pushing towards my goal. I want to be a part of that small margin of people that actually make it. So what is different for the 8%? Well, there's a difference between the 92 and the 8% is because a lot of our generation, I'm 19 years old, I was born in 05, a lot of our generation from 05 and up don't have a clear vision. They don't have the ability to go through things when they're hard. And they don't have a good ability to adapt to the change that you have to seek when you're going towards a goal. So it could be something as simple as the 8% wakes up at this time. They have a schedule, right? Every business owner I know in my personal life is up early and they go to sleep early. So they wake up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. They go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, making sure they're still getting good sleep. But when you wake up that early, you're setting yourself up success for the day. Even though it sucks, waking up at 5:30 is... I don't wake up at 5:30. I wake up at like 7, but that's, that's the margin at the 8%. And in between that 8%, you have the millionaires, the business owners, the people who own their own companies. That's the 8%. So I thought about it and I was like, why is it so different? Well, it's a very clear depiction. 8% always have a goal to achieve. They always, and it's kind of sick, to be honest, like, even for myself, like, I wake up and I'm so driven towards a goal. Some people just don't understand it. Some people just won't ever understand what that's like. And the 8% are always striving to do better things, whether it's for the community, for themselves, for their family, for the company, and even for the world. Making a difference and change in the world is where that 8% lie. The 8% also have a strong ability of concentration. Their concentration on the goal is unparamount to anything else. Their goal is the only thing that matters to them, which it can be a good thing, it could be an unhealthy thing, or it could be a really good thing for yourself because you want to drive towards that. Concentration to me means that you are totally in and you are totally bought in to what you're doing. And the 8% always have a schedule, they always have a goal, and they always have an ability to adapt to change. Now, next I want to talk about the American dream. The American dream, we've all heard of it. What is it? It is the thought that people in America can reach their goals by determination and success. And that's how you create success, is determination. Well, in America, only 31% say that they have achieved the American dream. So what is the American dream? We all know. It's on TV. You're outside with your family, you're cooking hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill, your kids are in the pool, your wife's doing X, Y, and Z in the kitchen, whatever it may be. I don't know. The American dream has, I think that statistic is wrong, because I think the American dream has definitely taken a pumble these last few years, especially with my generation. And we're all very young. My generation is still very young. We're, 20s and 30, or 20s and 30s, around in that age. So a lot of people, like I mentioned in my podcast last week, go to college and don't have a clear direction of where they're going. So they're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on an institution or a university that isn't going to get them to the American dream. My American dream and your American dream could be totally different. That's what the American dream is. We all have a different path. And I want to bring up a few things here. I want to bring up what the American dream has done to people, especially immigrants, starting, back in the 1900s. That was a really big time for immigration in America. They all saw America as the best place on earth. And in our generation, we have people who go by certain pronouns. They go by something. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't understand it. I don't understand why our generation has become so soft. You think about it, there was people in the 1930s and 40s that are 18, 19 years old going to fight in World War II to maintain the American dream for the people that are going to be immigrating into the country. I'm going to be honest, there's not a lot of people that I have met that are willing to go to war. I'm just, tell me there's somebody that you guys know, because I really don't know anybody. I would, because I want to make sure that the generation that's coming up has an America to live in. Because in World War II, Nazi Germany was going to try and take over the entire world. I mean, it was bound to happen, and I don't think it was ever going to happen if America didn't step in, because America is the strongest country. They have a muscle that is unlike any other country, and when we flex our muscle, we flex it hard and we go 100%. And that is why the American dream and that 8%, they have that small muscle. The American dream is a small muscle compared to America in itself, because we're so many different states and counties and cities and suburban areas. Every town has a small muscle to flex. Everybody has their own small muscle to flex to be able to achieve a goal and to achieve a dream. And I think that the American dream is something. I truly believe that the American dream is still alive today. I think the American dream has changed a little bit, but I think the American dream is still alive. I think the American dream is still something that we can all achieve. And I want to end this podcast in the next 10 minutes on telling my true walk-on story. Because in my last podcast, I didn't really explain my story. I kind of explained how I would go about it to be a walk-on, but I rewatched it and I said, well, listen, these people, some of them need to understand what you went through because some of them are thinking about it. Well, here's my story. So number one, why did I leave New Mexico State? I left New Mexico State because there was people within that staff who clearly had it out for me. They clearly had it out for my family name. It's very simple to see, and they can say all day that it wasn't that, but it was. My brother played there. We went on a visit, and the first thing somebody in that staff said to me was, well, my punter did this and this and that to my brother. Come on, man. You're having a guy coming on a recruiting visit, and you're talking about what your other punter did? That makes no sense at all. That's so arrogant. It's the most arrogant thing I've ever had somebody say to my family, in front of my face. It's so arrogant. I also left because I just wasn't happy. I didn't have a sense of happiness there. It just wasn't my place, and I really wanted it to be my place. I have a lot of friends out there. I met a lot of people. I did a lot of things out there. It was a really cool university. Everything is right there. It's a pretty big university, too. You don't really understand how big it is until you get there. I thought it was a small school, but it's really not. It's a big, big school. There's a lot of different buildings. The campus is beautiful. But it just wasn't my place, and I don't think I would ever go back. It's just something that kind of happened, and I was like, this is where it's at, and this is where I'm going to leave, and I don't want to go back. And the next thing I want to talk about is mental and physical. So what was my mental like and what was my physical like during that time? Well, my mental was always driven towards playing. I wanted to play so bad, and that's still to this day, before I go to UAPB, that is what I want to do. I want to play ball. I want to play in front of thousands of people. I want to showcase my skills to thousands of people. I want to be first team this, all team that, All-American, whatever it may be. Those are my goals, and that's what kind of drove to. And that drive never left, and it still hasn't. My drive is still the same. It's always been, since 8th grade, get to where you want to go. That was what I did for my mental side. My mental side's always remained the same. And physical is a little different. I worked out a lot. I trained a lot, spent a lot of hours at the field. I sacrificed a lot of time. That's what a lot of people don't understand about being in sports, and especially when you get to that level, is all the guys that are at FCS, the FBS, D2, D3, NAI, all of those guys have sacrificed a lot of their time to get better. And I would say more for the guys that are in FBS and FCS, because it's a very competitive sport, and it's a very competitive conferences, very competitive, just very competitive overall. Football is a very competitive game. You maybe have 1 to 2 punters on the roster. You have a starter and a backup, and only one person travels. And if you have 3 punters like we did at New Mexico State, 2 people travel. One was a backup holder, and the other guy was our starter. So that was what it was for me. I had to stay back and do those things. And I forgot to mention, the other reason why I left is before the games we would sit in the team center for 2 hours while the team did the Aggie walk, while they did all this stuff, but we are a part of that team. So I don't understand. That is a culture that I don't want to be a part of. Even if I was playing, I wouldn't want somebody to be a part of that. Like, why would you want to do absolutely nothing for 2 hours while the other guys are getting ready for the game? They're going through their Aggie walk stuff. I understand they're playing, but there's a sense of decency, human decency in that order. Continuing on with the walk-on story, I left, had a little bit of a family emergency, came home, and as I'm home, I was like, I'm hitting the transfer portal. For a guy like me who's going through a situation that I was in, the transfer portal is a great thing. I think for guys who are getting disrespected or guys who are not ever going to earn their place in that coach's room, I mean, that's just the reality. Coaches have favorites, and you can tell me all day you don't, but you do. It's the human nature to like a kid more than you like another kid. Another kid may have a different style or, So when I left, hit the transfer portal in December, got a call from Coach Manley at UAPB. Went on a little virtual visit, got to see the campus, not really got to see the campus, but got to see the football facilities and the stadium. Stadium is absolutely beautiful. Like, I cannot wait to get down there. I post kicking videos on my Twitter. I tag him. Shout out to Coach Manley. I mean, he's the coach I want to play for. Yeah, he's the coach I want to play under. And when I got that call, I thought about it. They wanted me to come early, and I was like, I got to kind of wrap some things up here at home, and that's what I did. I go in June, and my walk-on story is something that nobody will ever take away from me, and I was a true walk-on. I used to tell people I was a PWO, but I wasn't. I never got a PWO. I wanted to make it sound cooler. It didn't really sound cooler. But I was a true walk-on. I truly believe that it grows you as a person, and being a walk-on grew me so high to where I can withstand a lot. And I think even my junior year when my dad got sick, it was the same thing. I mean, I played through the adversity, and that's what I did in New Mexico State. I just kept my head down and worked, and that's the end result of it. And people won't like you for whatever reason, and especially in sports, if your coach doesn't like you, there's nothing you can do about it. And if you have the chance to transfer, you have the credits, and you have the grades, do it. Do it. I say do it. Get out. Go find a place you're happy. Go find a coach that really wants you. It doesn't have to be a D1. It could be you transfer from a D1 school to a D2 or a D3 school. If that coach really wants you on that team, that's where you want to go. And that's what Coach Manley's provided for me. He really wanted me on that team, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the opportunity, and that's about it for my walk-on story. If you guys have any questions, you can always reach out if you want to know something more. But that's the story, and I want to wrap this podcast up. I'm really excited for the future going forward with this podcast. It's going to take a while to grow, to get new equipment and things like that. But this is what we're looking at now. We're looking at my laptop and my iPhone. That's kind of what we're looking at. And going forward, I want to talk about, on the next podcast, is how to achieve happiness, because there's so many people that are unhappy. And I think I have a little bit of a way to think about it. I wouldn't say it's a way you can cure unhappiness, because I'm not a neuropsychologist or whatever. I'm not that, but I can tell you from my experience how I had to make myself happier. And I also want to go through what it was like in 8th grade through sophomore year and the things that I experienced and how that grew me even more and wanted me to push even more to get to my goals and my dreams. And I appreciate you guys for listening, man. This is something I love to do. It's a really cool thing to come on here and spread some positivity, talk about myself a little bit. And upcoming, we have my brother and Timothy Tynan coming on the podcast. Got to kind of work out a date with both of those guys. They're both pretty busy, so we'll have to work out a date with those guys. And if you guys want to be a part of the pod, like I've said in my first pod, make sure you guys send me a text. I'd be more than happy to bring my equipment and do an interview with anybody who wants to be on the pod. I mean, it's an open pod. We'll talk about whatever, and I appreciate you guys coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.